YouTube. Oh, wait.
Am I centered?
Yes. All right, so here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started as we do each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hi.
Ruben Bressler.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hey, buddy. We'll see if the Taters coming, for a visit this week.
Ruben, look, didn't you get the memo where it's green today? And on Wednesdays we wear green.
Green Day.
Like,
I've heard that.
It is a green day.
I've heard that it's Green Day, but I'm a Nimrod.
We have the time to listen to you whine, my friend.
Yes. However, I did not get that memo. Somehow, every week you guys are always wearing the same colors, and then I just am not.
I don't know what's going on there.
It's happened a lot recently, but in any case, I'm regardless of what color I'm wearing, which by the way, mono red, I gotta represent sometimes.
Wow.
Balance out Aaron's lack of mono red mountains in the background.
It's true. There's no mountain back there.
So hopefully no potato this week. I'll tell you why. Because we had even worse internet throughout the house than normal this week.
Oh my God.
Like everyone's internet was garbo. And so this week I am using the old personal hotspot to try to get through an episode without
while we're recording?
Yeah.
Do you see what I did?
It's good.
While we're recording.
It appears that we're
that went
also,
right over your head.
Well, it appears we're also having some of our own issues this week with some drop frames, but whatever. We're gonna keep on rolling.
Okay.
So we start each week with a giveaway these days, thanks to our friends at CoolStuffInc.com. And I'm a dude who likes to make things. As a Magic player, I like to see things and I like to be able to take advantage of them. And one of the things that we had kind of hanging around were at the shop were Fat Pack boxes. And one of the things I know that Magic players like to do is this wacky thing called chaos drafting, where you just pick random packs and then you just go. You just draft whatever randoms they happen to pull, and that's fine. But all three are potatoes. I'm hearing potato.
No,
party.
we're good. We're good. We're good.
All right, we're good. So either way, I developed this product called the CoolStuffInc.com Chaos Draft Box. I'm holding it right here up on the screen.
Take a look at that thing.
And it has 3 booster packs. It has 40 sleeves and a spin down die for $15. And you not only are going to get packs that are from recent sets. There's also packs of Alliances and Modern Masters 2013 and World Wake in there, seated amongst. And for $15, you can get you one. And again, it has all the sleeves you need. It's got a spin down die, just ready to go. Or you can buy a set of 8 because you want to hold a whole draft party, as it were. And you can get that at an even bigger discount. You can get those at CoolStuffInc.com right now. Or you can win one tonight by following the link that I'm putting in all the chats, which is sweet.
Nice.
And so I hope you guys dig that. I think it's a really cool idea, and obviously if it takes off, I'll keep riffing on it because I think there's a lot of potential there, and I wanted to make something that not only could sort of use some stuff that we had around around the shop, but also be able to give people a really exciting experience of whatever may be in that box you don't know. So those are on sale at CoolStuffInc.com right now, or enter via the link, and you too could maybe have your own Chaos Draft Box and see what in the world may be in this thing.
That's kind of a cool idea. I love that. I think that's a super. I would just keep those in my closet and be like, on like an off night and get together, 5 or 7 of my other friends or 5 or 7 of my other kids and get a chaos draft together. Hashtag 5 or 7 of my kids. Yeah. Hashtag 5 or 7 kids. And get a chaos draft going. I think that's a really cool idea. Chaos drafts are something that I very rarely. I think I've only done 2, but I've had a blast every time doing chaos drafts. I'm a big fan. We should discuss chaos draft strategy at some point.
Absolutely. There is now. I mean, of course, of the sets that are involved, all the standard sets are in there. We got some stuff that kind of reach back to Fate Reforged and Gatecrash and stuff like that. But there's even packs of Odyssey and Plane Shift and Scourge.
Nice.
There's plenty of
old school
crazy stuff, and you'll see it.
Blue White Flyers is probably the best archetype in Chaos Draft. Would be my guess.
Well, I am. I posted some links to the actual product in the chat, so if you guys want to check that out. It actually has the list of all the sets that are included. But again, super neat thing. I want to give one away. I'm excited about it. It's the first time really being able to tell the world about it. I've been working on this thing for like a couple months now, and yeah, now it exists, and it's really sweet.
Awesome.
And I hope you guys like it.
Yeah,
thanks.
Click that link.
Woo! Get that link. Put it in the giveaway. We'll give it away in an hour. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so one of the other things we wanted to talk about was what our top 10 is going to be for next week's top 10 video.
Right.
Been working on these for a couple weeks now. We've been listening to y'all's feedback. We've tried some things. We've tried some other things. We're kind of working our way through it, as you do, I think, any sort of new creative endeavor. You kind of want to figure out where the sweet spot is. But next week we'll talk about our top 10 favorite Hour of Devastation cards.
Right.
And those very well may vary wildly.
Oh, they're certainly going to vary wildly. Aaron is only going to pick black cards, I would assume. Maybe a green card.
There's actually a red card I really enjoy from the new set. So.
Okay.
See?
All right. Well, that's unexpected.
Well, there you go. So I'm also, you know, in the vein of doing things new and creatively, I'm also trying to figure out a way to try to do those things a little bit faster, because the turnaround and the editing time is significant. However, you know, I think we're going to, again, we're doing this more and more. Should be having a lot of fun with it. And everyone is saying that we're moving to Taterville right now, that the stream has gone bad. So I'm going to pop that stream down, and we're going to run it back. Particularly the Twitch stream, I believe, is having issues. So we're offline on Twitch. We're going back online. Now we're going to connect to Miami, which is what we probably should have been to start with. And this is really exciting topics for those listening to our podcast. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out.
But you know, you mentioned all the hard work that you're putting into the show, Evan, and I think it shows, though. Like, you know, by all accounts, the show looks great. Like, you know, you're obviously picking good, you know, images to use. You're obviously right on the nose with when to put those images up, so that you're not like cutting off facial expressions or like visual cues, and it really looks great. Like, I really can't thank you enough for doing it.
Thanks, and I hope you guys go check it out, and if you like it, let me know, and if you have some tips to help make it better, then also let us know. So that'd be great. All right, so let's get to our sort of topics du jour. As we usually find, the week of, it's not the pre-release yet, but it's after the whole set has been spoiled. There's a lot of sort of crickets going on. There's not a whole lot of movers and shakers in the Magic world this week. However, there's a few cool things to talk about. The first is the Commander 1v1 ban update. The fact that Commander, as of July 5th, is going into two formats. Commander, which is on multiplayer play, and using the ban list at mtgcommander.net, and Commander 1v1 will be managed by Magic R&D. And they basically went through and banned Ponder, Preordained Brainstorms, Get Out, Treachery out.
As usual.
And just silly stuff that, you know, you don't care about 1v1, like Biorhythm and Limited Resources and Painter Servant and Trade Secrets, which are all super cute, but in 1v1 you don't really care as much as you do in a multiplayer environment. So this is kind of the first time where, and also Vile Smasher the Fierce apparently was was a big bad
big
deal.
Problem.
Yeah, that card seems bananas. So they're
especially in a
that
1v1 format.
Yeah, exactly. So
I find it interesting that, you know,
a female, which I learned today.
Oh.
Yeah, I find it interesting that, you know, there's been a lot of talk over the past couple of years about exactly how powerful these draw spells are. You know, for example, in Legacy, there's always that weird, you know, group of people who thinks that Brainstorm should be banned, and then you go to Vintage and it's just a one-of, and you really kind of realize that. And I find it interesting that even in a format like this one, where you're only technically allowed one copy, it's still too powerful where they won't even let you have that. But in Legacy, you can run Boar, and it's totally fine. And so that was the first thing that stuck out to me, is you can't even have it in Commander. Like, what does that say about how powerful these cards really are?
It is not. Yeah. It should not be unbanned in Legacy. You know, that whole format is just a gentleman's agreement of, we're going to play with this busted thing. No one's really going to say anything about it. Don't make any too many waves. You know, don't really point out that this is completely stupid. But sure, whatever. And a format full of fetch lands, we can just play 4 Brainstorms. It's fine. Whatever. Who cares? It's not. It's too powerful. Literally too powerful for Vintage. But Legacy, all right, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
so's Ponder. Ponder's also restricted in Vintage, just because, like, the thing thing about it for Vintage, though, is because you've got all of these restricted cards, it makes digging into those restricted cards that much easier.
Right.
At least in Legacy, you're not brainstorming into, you know, Moxen and Black Lotus and, you know, things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and so the ability for Wizards to kind of go in there and look at all the data and make changes based on that data, which I think is sweet. So you do have kind of that sort of real-world counterpart where, you know, MTGCommander.net is able to do their stuff and they talk amongst it in their forums and they come to a consensus. And R&D can actually look kind of at the raw data from MTGO and say, you know, this is right for this format. And then you still let sort of essentially the uber casuals stay uber casual.
Sure.
Separating these things into two formats was a great idea, which I appreciate that. Yeah. So there was this. So the full set was spoiled on Friday, and there wasn't like a ton of amazing stuff that showed up, but there was one really fascinating card that caught my eye and caught others' eyes. Which is the old striped Riverwinder, which I've put up on the screen now. And if you look at the full art, it's kind of totally BA. Like, it's really sweet and it's cool, and there's just like the spits there and the things looks all menacing and it's great. But when you look at the card, you'll notice that the art kind of gets shrunk to the point where the borders around the monster itself are very thick and very dark, and so they almost look like they're black outlines, which at that point almost gives it sort of a comic book or a drawn look. Well, I thought it just looked sort of like Pokemon-ish, and I was like, wow,
yeah.
You know, Striped Riverwinder uses water attack. It's super effective. And, you know... And then of course, you know, there was the other side, which is like, this art is amazing. This art is the greatest art of all time. And I'm like, it's great. It's fine. It's not bad art. I just like poking fun at Magic cards from time to time. And so I thought it was kind of silly, and it is one of the really nice examples when people say, like, when art doesn't translate to a Magic card, Striped Riverwinder is right there at the top of the list of, hey, look what happened when you put it in this like 2-inch by 3-inch space or whatever. It almost turns into a different picture in some ways, just because a lot of the nuance and a lot of the shadow and a lot of the definition is lost.
Yeah, agreed. It does look pretty cartoonish. Mm-hmm. But you know, I'm okay with cartoonish. I'm okay with stylized art on Magic cards. You know, I think that, you know, I've always been okay with Stasis, for example, existing as a Magic card art style. I know that we don't do that really anymore, but, you know, everything that, you know, Thomas Baxa does and Richard Kane Ferguson and all of those kind of out there, non-realist, a little bit impressionist, a little bit weird. You know, I would be super excited to have, you know, Salvador Dali style art on Magic cards, in addition to the super realistic and the interesting traditional style fantasy. But it's certainly good to have a little bit of variation, and I'm okay having, you know, this kind of, it looks quite like Kaijudo-y. You know, it's pretty Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think it also, this card itself, let's just forget for a second that we're talking about the art. The card itself is going to be spectacular in Draft.
Oh.
And also, you mentioned it's going to be a player in Pauper.
Yeah, I mean, look at this thing. It cycles for 1 mana. It's a 5/5 hexproof. And so it cycles, and then you can play Exhume on turn 2, and that is a literally turn 1, turn 2, reanimate a 5/5 hexproof. Oh my god. Like, that's a legit strategy. That's
yeah, it's going to be tough to deal with. I mean, people are going to have to start playing more copies of Devour Flesh than...
We don't have any problems. All right, we're on YouTube again. Yay. Magic.
We're back on YouTube?
We are back.
Okay. I like the hand flourish. That was... Yay.
So...
Things happen.
Speaking of art, I wanted to quickly touch on Tragic Lesson.
Oh my god.
Which, when they spoiled that art, when they spoiled this card, no one was talking about what the card does. No. Not a single person. No. They were just talking about how it's just the saddest thing anyone has ever seen on a Magic card.
Well, it's even the Ronus one, I think it's called Life's Lesson, or Life, the one where you gain life, and it's got Ronus's head just open and stuff's coming out of it. It's like, why do we need to see this? And I mean, I think Sammet's standing on his head, and it's just like, what?
Tragic Lesson in particular, I mean, there's certain times where, you know, Wizards can really get I almost think emotional. You know what I mean? It's like the dead kids from what was it, Shadows?
No, that was a core set. Yeah,
Magic Origins. Yeah,
those Origins. Yeah,
yeah. And not all heroes wear armor or whatever. Something that was the flavor text, which was amazing. And Tragic Lesson is just, it's so brutal. I mean, look at the blood that's like shimmering, and it's already coagulated there, and the people are just weeping and freaking out, and there's like the wound, and I mean, it's very real. It's very very powerful in terms of like the way that they framed it and the composition. I mean, it was astounding how powerful this image to me was compared to a lot of other Magic art, which is great. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But rarely has it felt so visceral.
Yeah, they made a conscious decision in this set to actually show you these upsetting scenes and like not hide the ball. Like sometimes Magic is like, we're a little bit of a kid's game. We don't actually want to show you, the Scorpion God murdering Ronus, like on Hour of Glory, which also is hashtag Ronus face, in case you guys have been paying attention to. With the hilarious Ronus monument in the background, making the like, oh dear, what have I done face. That I originally, when I saw the art, I thought that was photoshopped in the background, like you were getting your photo taken at Walmart. But yeah, they made a conscious decision to have more, deicide style moments of actually showing you it happening, which is a little unsettling, but an interesting direction to head in. This is a pretty dark angle to take on a lot of these arts. There's lots of blood in this set. There's lots of death. There's lots of not just the moment of a dude flying at you with a spear, but a spear being in somebody. And that's a big, shift in styling. So,
Aaron, how did you feel about this piece of artwork?
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point in it evoking something, and I think part of the reason it evoked something is because Kefnet seemed so, I don't want to say, but harmless, like the reaction to if this had been like Bantu or if this had been Hazaret, I think people would have felt something, but the fact that this was not a physical god, it was more of the mental god, the mind god, this is somebody who, was just trying to, even leading up to it, I think they said that he was just trying to understand what was going on and just had these locusts kind of bogging him down and he couldn't really do anything. And so I think it's the fact that Kefnet was sort of one of the weaker gods that this happened to. Like, it would have been terrible if it was any of the gods, but I think because it was this particular one, it was so much more brutal. And, the text even was like, the followers tried to get something out of it, say maybe there's some last words here. And it was like the word gurgling came up. It's like, that's a really brutal choice of words.
Let's go ahead and give that one the full read through. Though Kefnet's followers feverishly searched his last words for some final riddle, they found only the gurgles of a dying god.
Yeah, so it's the fact that he was sort of the more, the type of god that he was, the flavor text, the followers on the card, it really was sort of the package. And it's really hard to see.
And I agree with you. I think one of the ththings that affects it is that this isn't like the tough buff, there to beat face god. This was just like the almost delicate, like it stayed above, it stayed back. It wasn't like super physically, imposing. It cast a lot of spells, but it wasn't like coming and getting you. But somebody came and got Kefnet and did terrible things to it.
I mean, the god of knowledge traditionally is one of the sort of staying behind, staying back kind of gods. Ioun in D&D lore comes to mind. Who is the god of knowledge and is interested in things, but, sort of doesn't, really jump into the fray when it comes to the big battles of the gods, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like Vecna coming forward and trying to take everything over. Well, that's a bad example, I guess, because that's a bad guy, and bad guys try to take things over. But you get my point. I think that traditionally, gods of knowledge tend to just want to learn. They're just sitting there reading their books, and they're disinterested in the politics of the pantheons.
Well, from the chat, we have someone like, well, you could be. We're glad they wouldn't be able to do it Disney style, where like tears bring it back.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no tears.
Applause brought back Tinkerbell. Yeah.
Yeah.
No applause is bringing back Kefnet. He's just straight dead.
Yeah.
Well, there's theories that he's going to get eternalized and turn into a lean, mean god machine, but.
Right. I mean, it's just like Elspeth died on Theros. But does anybody die on Theros, right? Like, this is another one of these worlds where it's just like, oh, we just wrap him in tissue paper and he comes back in a slightly different form, right? Like, wasn't that whole, what was the young kid's name that was the blue-white legend? That was like, ooh, if I embalm myself, I can become a better version of myself. He's from the last set, from Amonkhet.
Right, the Nantuken whatever.
Yeah.
Tutankhamun or whatever.
The Nantuken.
I don't know. The dude.
The dude.
Stuff.
So, like, maybe he comes to Temet. There we go.
Yeah,
Temet. And yeah, Daxos is another good example from Theros of like nobody ever really dies ever, right? So we're gonna get Elspeth with the gold mask, and she won't remember who she is, and we're gonna get Kefnet wrapped in toilet paper for Halloween, and like that's just the way it's gonna be. Superman never really dies. Like that's just.
When we return to Amonkhet, I'm sure they're going to bring all of the gods back again.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Has the story hasn't actually concluded yet, right, Aaron? Like, we're still in the middle of, like, figuring out where they're going to leave it.
Yeah, so as of this story, spoiler alert, so they spent the last couple stories just basically picking off the gods. So Ronus was the first one to go, then Kefnet, and then Oketra, and then now Bantu got hers today. And so they basically indicated that Hazaret is currently the only surviving god. And based on the exert cards for all of them, people believe that Hazaret will remain the only surviving god. And so that's really where we are right now, is Bolus has officially arrived. The people were excited. He then killed them all. And now Hazaret's sort of, a little roughed up, and she's just trying to figure out. Samit kind of gave her the I told you so. And so they're just trying to figure out what to do now.
Right. You've got Oketra's last mercy, Kefnet's last word, Bantu's last reckoning, Ronus's last stand, and Hazaret's undying
And can I just say, I was very disappointed with Bantu's last reckoning, because I love Bantu, obviously, and I was under the impression that that card was going to go down differently, but the way it was done in the story is she was basically dying, so like she'd been hit with like Bolus sends like a little black bolt at her, she goes down, and then like a bunch of undead hordes try to like pick away at her, and then she gets up, roars them off of her, and then dies. And I was like, I would have really liked for that to have been just a better moment. Like, I didn't want that to be her death knell, where it's like, I could see her being mad and then getting shot down, but like to get up and then just to go back down was really disappointing.
Wow.
Sure.
It's interesting to me. Well, there also there was an article this week, and I'm just kind of going through here where Seth Manfield actually talks about his number one, like his best cards for standard from Our Devastation. His number one is kind of the modal uncommons, the Supreme Will, the Doomfall, and the Upgrade, where they're so good because they're. He says, they basically just do all the things whenever you want them, and they have that margin when you need them, and they kind of they're there when you need them, which is terrific.
Yeah, Jade and Clemperens wrote an article the other day. Shout out to Jade, because she took down the standard classic at the Envy this past weekend playing Black Green Snake, which she's been playing for a while. She was really excited about the black one, which I know we've been kind of joking about how it may not be that great, but she was actually really excited about it. And she was like, it takes out things like Torrential Gear Hulk, those sort of control decks where they're really only running like one beater, and if you can get rid of that, or if you have to rely on the other mode as well. And I think that was the first time I had ever seen somebody speak highly about the black one, because I know people were really excited about the blue one, but the black one was sort of the, the redheaded stepchild of the bunch.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's... arguably, I guess, maybe the worst of them, because the red one solves, the Gear Hulk problem.
Yeah.
Right. But, being able to see things like the Scorpion God and the Locust God are in there, Our Devastation's in the top 5, the Scarab God, Pride Sovereign was number 3, like, Kitty Cats in standard, please.
Speaking of kitty cats, oh my god, we should have talked about this. Did you see the Commander card that got spoiled?
The Commander deck is going to be green-white kitty cats.
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's a little upsetting that it's not banned kitty cats, so that you can't actually run the original Jedit Ojanen.
Is that how you pronounce it?
That's how I pronounce it.
Well, I always said Jedit Ojanen, but that's me.
Oh,
so.
You fancy pants.
Wow.
In any case, Arabo, Roar of the World, is going to be the cat avatar legend for the new Commander, which is sweet. Eminence on the keyword there. Have we seen Eminence before?
Yeah, Eminence is in the Shulgi one, or the Dragon one. That was one of the dragons that got leaked. Yeah.
So yeah, you got your cat legend, and yeah, you got your Celestia kitty cats legend there, and that's just pretty cool. It's interesting that they went in that direction for Commander 2017. I wonder if they're going to have more tribal focused legendary.
Are there even that many cats?
There's plenty of cats and the Regal Caracal and stuff, and of course they can make up new ones.
Yeah,
but Pride Sovereign is a fantastic card. He put at number 3, Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh at number 2. You know, sure. Which I think this is another one of those, like, Wizards wants this card to be good. They want Nicol Bolas to be powerful. It does everything. It has a. It
doesn't kill planeswalkers though.
It has a ton of words on it that are all very good. But Scarab God is really frightening.
Yeah, we had my local EDH pod. Somebody had asked if they could play with the Scarab God, despite it not being out yet, and we were all fine with that. And so he pulled up his phone and he just sort of laid the Gatherer image in the command zone, and he was like, "All right, this is my Scarab God. This is the deck I built." And even just in Commander, the card is insane. Like, just being able to reanimate things, having a new way to reanimate things, is just gross, and it's very, very good.
And another one he points out, which I don't think we really talked about, and I haven't really seen on a lot of radars, which is Grind to Dust. Grind, it's an Aftermath card. Grind is a black and a generic mana for a rare sorcery that puts a -1/-1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So right there, 2 mana for -2/-2, how you split it how you want. However, Dust is a white and 3 generic mana as a sorcery, as Aftermath of course. You exile any number of target creatures that have -1/-1 counters on them. That says any number that you would like to target. So for 6 mana, you automatically just exile 2 things forever. But really, if anyone actually tries to use the -1/-1 sort of counter theme stuff in Standard, it's automatically fantastic. And it's really cool how both sides of this card really work really well.
And Grind is great. Like, that's just Arc Trail in black. That's a crazy card. Let alone having flashback of being able to exile anything gigantic that has the -1/-1 counters on them. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, so it's really awesome that all the gods are there. Nicol Bolas is there. You know, the kitty cat is roaring, is being awesome. I'm very excited about that. So yay. All right, so let's keep moving here. Wizards loves Tumblr. They really, really like Tumblr. That's a
weird relationship that's developed over the past year. Basically, since they announced that Reddit was the official place for everything, they were like, JK, mostly Tumblr.
They're like, no, we're sorry, really, Reddit's really not the place anymore. Because, and I feel, like, basically they can't control it. They can't really control the narrative. On Tumblr, you can post something, you can ban people so their replies don't show up and whatever. So you can really be able to sort of make sure that whatever you want to talk about is right there in front of everybody, which is fine. I understand that. Either way, they make a lot of Tumblr blogs, and Magic Organized Play has one now, if you didn't know. And it says there's some Team Series updates, and I thought this was really cool. And what they kind of sort of sold it as, well, this is only for the people on the teams. Only the people on the teams really need to know. Yeah, that's not cool. We want to know. And first of all, they're doing something with tiebreakers in the series, but I don't really care.
Sure.
But I do care about the fact that teams of 6 are going to remain for the next upcoming year. Uniform rules are getting even tougher.
Yes.
They had uniform rules that includes T-shirts are okay. However, teams they said they're going to get tougher on the enforcement. The teams are expected to compete wearing their approved uniforms and should plan accordingly, also known as be an adult. Please, #be an adult. And that they'll be enforcing it at Pro Tour Ixalan in November. Teams should ensure that the uniforms have been produced and that they pack appropriately. Isn't that nice? They give you like that mom thing, make sure you pack your underwear and your team shirt, and don't forget your socks, and bring your toothpaste. As penalties, they say, in-team scoring may be assessed for team members that don't comply. You literally can get fashion judged. There can be the fashion police.
Good.
Yes.
That's amazing. Because how many times have we been here saying, can we stop?
Too many times.
Pajama bottoms and your stained clothes.
Surgical scrubs and basketball shorts and Pokemon hats and No, and I also like, I
show.
also like that they talked about the actual logos themselves because, I follow a couple of art snobs. I love them to death, but, I remember when the last Pro Tour happened and people were like, I know even Proxy Guy was having a fit and he's like, you can hire me. Like, I can do better. Like, I work for cheap. And like, there were some art types that were losing their minds because some of these logos just weren't very good, quite frankly. And so I like this portion where they're talking about how, if for the soft launch, we were very lenient on what we approved for logos as teams got a feel for what was expected. For the official launch, we will be a bit tougher on approvals to ensure that whatever is approved looks good, key number one, and is easily associated to a team on our coverage features, match overlay, standing slides, and team series scoreboards. And I think that's fantastic. Like, I'm all for, this foray into professionalism. I love all of this. And so for teams that need assistance on ensuring their logo will look the best it can, think about how you can use as little as possible to represent your team in a graphical form. I'm here for all of this. And so we will be clarifying language that a representation of your team needs to be on your uniform. They even go into detail about sponsors. Make sure your sponsor's on there. And I think this is great. I like this.
It just
sorry.
Go ahead.
As usual, I like the idea. I'm worried about the implementation. Now, I'm sure that this is a thing where they can borrow language from other major esports or regular non-esports for, the fashion police. But, I assume this is going to be a director of organized play responsibility, and I'm not sure we have a new one
no,
yet.
we don't.
That's just
So,
like a question
that's
mark at
weird.
this point. We still don't know who's filling Helen's shoes. I don't know. Like, it's weird that I now don't have that kind of person that I feel comfortable tagging on Twitter, being like, hey, here's a weird, like, pro thing, pro tour
questions
thing,
about
Grand Prix
this.
thing, PTQ thing. Like, I need that conduit, and we don't really have it right now. So,
I can fill in if you need it to be, like I can,
Right.
So, like, you can ask me questions and you'll be like, I do not believe that these shirts are appropriate for the type of event that we're looking to proliferate. I can do that.
Right.
We got this.
Right.
Really like ask Helen. It'll be great.
I really like Helen saying the word proliferate a lot. I don't care about the rest of the sentence. I heard proliferate.
It is important that the logo issues, you got to work as many mechanics in as you can. It is important that the logo issues do not persist. Otherwise, the aftermath will be incalculable. And
that is A+ work.
That is fantastic.
But yeah, I got distracted by how great that was.
But
you have to wonder if Helen's not sitting like in a beach chair somewhere and just seeing this and being like, "Girl, like,
bet you miss me now, don't you?"
Of course we do. How are we? We were reading this in the pre-show, and we're like, I have this question, and I have this question, and who's going to decide whose shirt is nice enough, and where's the line, and who's the logo, police, and it's like we don't have anyone to ask.
Hire me for this, Wizards. We've talked about this before. MTA and I, Magic the Amateuring, we joked about doing like a fashion police of like the Pro Tour, and like, I can't do coverage necessarily. Like, I'm not play-by-play girl, but whatever. But if you need someone to like judge that, I can do that.
Red carpet before the event starts.
Like, if you want to know whether or not your basketball shorts are acceptable or those socks go with those sandals, call me. I'm available.
Nice.
Spoiler alert: those basketball shorts are not acceptable.
They're not acceptable. And don't sit
the
there
socks and sandals
so you
might
see
be.
the twig and berries going on. Nobody needs that. All right, no one needs what's going on in there. Okay.
Yeah, we don't. We'll get those cash and prizes handed out at the end of the event. We don't leave them handed out while you're on camera.
The cash and the prizes, and
cash.
Look, ultimately, it's. I don't know if it's going to take someone like literally losing a tiebreaker or whatever because like one of their team members didn't wear a shirt right, like, but maybe it will, like hopefully, the pros, they take all this very seriously, and they make sure they got their stuff together, and people make sure that they pack all the crap and blah blah blah, but if there's a point in time where because so and so didn't have their jersey on, it's going to be a pretty seminal moment for Magic of like, well,
can't wait.
Should have gotten your crap together.
Step your cookie up. Yes.
This is finally. And look, if this is what it takes, that they have to lean on the team thing so that we don't embarrass ourselves, sure, whatever. Okay, fine. That's good. Make sure you got your logos in place. Logos are a thing you can make. Get your clothes. Get it together. Just get your crap together.
It's going to be interesting to see if they actually use the points as the punishment system or if it'll just be fines. Because it's sort of split 50-50 right now in esports, where sometimes teams are punished in the context of the competition, and sometimes they're simply, you have to pay this amount of money, of prize money, or you're penalized some appearance fee or something like that when they break rules that don't have anything to do with the actual gameplay. For tournaments. For example, turning in things late, like turning in rosters late to events or things like that. So it'll be interesting to see the implementation. Unfortunately, I have no one to ask about it right now, so who knows? Yeah. I guess I gotta start going on Tumblr.
Dude, Tumblr, where it's at, buddy. That's when you want to talk to wizards. They want to bring you to the Tumblr fold.
Yeah. Lord.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
As a side note, it's really interesting to me how the various social media networks are populated. I don't think populated is the right word,
like
but how they
demographics. You mean
not just the demographics, but how they interact with people. For example, we're on both Twitch and YouTube, right? Twitch is a really interesting, unique tool, and YouTube's been around forever, but it also has evolved in an interesting, unique way, where I think it's more difficult as a new creator on YouTube than it used to be, based on a lot of things that YouTube hasn't really done. It's just how the culture has evolved on YouTube, whereas Twitch is much more creator-friendly, in my opinion. And the same thing can be said about Reddit and Tumblr and, Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram and all of the various social media networks, and how people try to communicate with their fan base or with their customer base. And so to see Wizards of the Coast migrate so quickly away from Reddit to Tumblr, not specifically to Tumblr, but mostly away from Reddit, just as fast as they humanly possibly could,
right,
is really interesting to me, and is probably a deeper discussion that needs to happen another day. But it's just, I'm glad that they've continued to communicate with us, even if they're using a different megaphone.
Well,
So
I don't think it necessarily has to mean anything like, malicious or shady. I think even as content providers, it's very important to have a presence in multiple places. But I think it's also important to find the ones that work for you. Like, Gabby, for example, she has an Instagram, she has a Twitter, and she has her Twitch, but she doesn't really use Snapchat. I love Snapchat. So I'm on my Twitter, I'm on my Snapchat. I'm starting to realize that streaming isn't necessarily for me, so I may not be on my Twitch for much longer. But, I think it's important to find the things that work for you and not just use them because everybody's using them. And I think it's important to, follow the trends, go where the people are going. And if the people aren't going there anymore, or if you find that that's just not how you prefer to communicate, like you don't like the way that Reddit does things, I think there's nothing wrong with, moving to another platform. And I wish more people, did that, not just having sites because everybody has them and then you never use them and that's just bad. And so I think it's savvy. I think it's great.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to move on now to Gather the Townsfolk, where we spoke about this a little bit after the event, where the GP Vegas show had the art show also there. That was Patreon, or I'm sorry, it was Kickstarter funded, which was amazing, and it had all these cosplayers. It had some amazing pieces of art. It's really crazy that, just so few people will actually get to see real live Magic art in front of them. And this was a way to do that. And so he kind of talks about how, he was kind of a crazy person to do this in such a short amount of time. And that, they were struggling to get all their stuff, like their insurance and stuff, done and make sure all that stuff happened. They gave surveys to everybody to see how they're sort of, how they heard about it. 30% heard about it just through word of mouth, which I thought was kind of interesting. How much did they enjoy it? Of course, everybody loved it because it was amazing. And if you've been there, I'm telling you, you would have known. It sounded cool, but it turned out way, way better. Even than
agreed.
I could describe it to you all day. It's just like a piece of art, right? It's just like a piece of art. I could tell you how great a Monet is, but when you stand in front of it and you go like, like there's that visceralness. Again, it's just like, but when you have a Black Lotus, I can print out one on my printer and stick it in a sleeve, but that's not having a Black Lotus in front of you,
Yeah.
There's something special about it. So, did the cosplayers enhance your experience? Most people said yes. The best part of it was, of course, the art, followed by shining a spotlight on MTG art and artists and stuff. And some of the interesting stuff was, how does it need to be improved? For example, like more art.
Well, sure.
More stuff, please. Thanks. One that actually got more than a quarter of the vote and absolutely should be a part of it. And Wizards, we need to get our crap together here. Have a preview card or preview art in a gallery.
Yeah, sure. that would have been
All
good.
Right.
You don't even need to give us the card. Just show us some sweet artwork that we've never seen before that makes it like you want to go to the show so you can check out that preview art that no one's ever seen before.
Yeah, I think they missed a big opportunity there.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to get kind of really, sort of, if you kind of want to be clever with it, another thing you could do is you could put that art behind a curtain and say, no photography behind this curtain. And that's how you see the preview art. And people can tell you about it and they can talk about it, but you can't see it unless you actually go to the show. And sure, you release it the Monday after the Grand Prix or wherever the show happens, and that's fine. But, that in and of itself is an amazing way to not only get people to show up and go and sort of experience it, but also to really give something back to these guys who they scrambled and put something together, something awesome, and they worked their butts off, and I thought it was amazing.
Crossing the frontier of actually bringing Magic art to the Magic players is just something that needed to happen. And the fact that it hadn't happened already is embarrassing. But Mike and the rest of the team did just a spectacular job, and I'm super excited for future additions, because even with how spectacular it was, and it was spectacular, it was... Other than doing our live show, it was the highlight of the GP for me. Absolutely. It was just, I just had a big grin on my face the whole time I was in there. Every single person I ran into after I saw it for the rest of the weekend, I was just like, you have to go. Just go. You have to go.
It's amazing.
I was part of the word of mouth. It's amazing. You have to do it. Like, why wouldn't you do it? This is such a unique thing for some reason that needs to just be part of the lexicon of Magic. And I'm super excited for where it goes in the future, because as good as it was, there is room for improvement, as Mike pointed out in the article. So I'm super happy with it.
I was particularly impressed by the cosplayers. I know MJ Scott had written a kind of a report, if you will, almost like a tournament report of cosplay, of the people that were brought in and the people who showed up. And, one of the things that consistently impresses me about the cosplayers that I see, the Magic cosplayers, is how willing they are to sort of take each other under their wing, how willing they are to work together. I really feel like you don't see a lot of bitchiness. Like I would think that, let's say you're wearing a cosplay and somebody else shows up with that same cosplay. I feel like the natural instinct is to sort of like pick it apart or say, what are they doing better than me? And you were seeing multiple Nisses together, and there didn't appear to be any of that. You were seeing cosplayers that maybe weren't as visible palling around with the bigger names, and the bigger names being more than willing to take them around, take pictures with them, plug them. It would have been very easy for someone like MJ or somebody like Christine to be like, this is my gig, and y'all can just sort of follow me and you can breathe my air and you're welcome. But you just didn't see any of that through the whole weekend. It was, it was just a spirit of cooperation, the spirit of, I love a lot of the photos that MJ took of like the Planeswalker pool party. I thought that was brilliant. And the list of all the cosplayers who showed up. I feel like not only did this give art a new sense of validity, for lack of a better word, I feel like it also added to cosplay. It made cosplay a lot more important and relevant.
Absolutely. It was really sweet. There was another question that he asked that I wanted to talk about, which was the Magic Art Show would like to remain free. In order to keep the show free, how would you support the show? Almost half said they would support a Kickstarter, and a quarter of them, and over a quarter of them said either, and of course this isn't just like it leads to 100%, it's just, of the responses, over 25% included guided tours, or donation to reveal a preview card. See, that would be really interesting. You can go behind the curtain with no photography for $1 and check out the preview card. I'd be in for $1. Or product, they said, that, like actual product playmats, I'm guessing, or pins and whatnot.
Right.
And over 34% had a tip jar. And he noted that we also had that conversation. When I was leaving the art show, I was like, you need a tip jar.
A tip jar. Yeah, I said it too.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not going to like sort of cheapen the experience. What it does is let them to show some amount of appreciation when, if they weren't part of the Kickstarter and they didn't get the cool stuff, at least they can say, hey, this was worth $1 or $2 of my time. This was great, blah, blah, blah. So So I'm glad they did that, and ultimately I could definitely see more Kickstarters doing this. But what I would love to see is Wizards really just kind of take this up and say, you know what, it is worth us putting some time, some resources, some flights, some insurance, some ability to move pieces back and forth, some sort of way for them to make it easier than the sort of the struggle that they had to make this happen in 47 days they had.
Yeah, 47 days,
which is crazy pants for an event like this.
Absolutely. Getting the insurance together, getting all the pieces shipped and moved. Just aces all around.
Or being able to, for example, be able to use event staff to help them break down or build up the show. I mean,
or get a better location. Like, put it where the artists are, for example. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that they can improve on this in the future.
Right, and this is also something that maybe Channel Fireball can kind of come out and say, hey, we want to support this. Maybe there's a thing that, part of one of the packages that you can sign up for the event has something to do with the art show or products associated with the art show. I mean, I think there's some opportunities here for whether Wizards or Channel Fireball for the Grand Prix to really showcase something like this, maybe on annual, biannual basis, but we should have it.
I think it's obvious that this is the rule of capitalism. I think that it's proven itself that this is a winning thing, so they should support it. Like, the market has spoken. This is worth pursuing. So someone better do it.
Absolutely. Aaron, where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there were some missed opportunities here, but on the other hand, I can also see how some people might have been reserved because this really was sort of the first of its kind. And so I can understand, not wanting to get attached to it or not wanting to get too attached to it just in case it flopped. I think now that it's been proven to be a success and an overwhelming success at that, I hope that this inspires more people to want to work with them now that they've seen that it can happen. And maybe the next time around they will have the sponsors and they will have the preview card and they will have the support that they deserve.
Absolutely. So I hope, again, Wizards kind of gets behind this, makes it happen, or Channel Fireball, or both. Or whatever, this is the thing. So, so let's keep moving here. There was an interesting conversation on Twitter this week from Owen Turtenwald, Mr. Owen Tweetenwald himself. He quotes an article about the Hall of Fame, and the article says that Chris Pikula made 3 PTs top 8s back when they were easier, quote unquote.
Quote, back when they were easier.
They were easier in the 90s, and it's interesting, of course. The top comment reply is by Mr. Finkel, Johnny Magic himself, who says that his win rate post-Hall of Fame is the same as his pre-Hall of Fame win rate, and he was better then. People underestimate the advantages of teams and modern testing. So there is we're a more connected world, and as a result, all the pros are a better connected sort of network of people who can share information and test things and keep spreadsheets and figure out matchups and sideboard plans and blah, 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 and all the things that back sort of in the 90s, you had those things, but kind of in sort of more of a raw, sort of a unpolished nature, where these days, there are teams that are, they jump on the bandwagon day one after the spoiler, they make all this stuff happen, they start grinding all the decks and figuring out whatever they want to do with it. Whereas before, sometimes you would just show up with a deck that you thought was really good, and maybe many pros, quote unquote, did that back in the day.
Yeah, I thought that this whole the conversation that evolved from this tweet, which was in response to Andre Strosky's Hall of Fame article, because Andre is such a young person, he used the phrase "back when they were easier" without, of course, having been there. Right. And I thought that there were a lot of interesting comments in the thread that followed from this. For example, Kai responded to Ben Stark at part of this, which Ben thought that it was comparing apples to oranges a little bit, which was the best player today is better than the best player back then, but also the 100th best player today is better than the 100th best player back then, so you have to move the scale. Right. Ben said something along the lines, or Kai said, the best player right now is way better than the best player back then, and Ben Stark said, I think the best players now aren't nearly as good as the best player then. Do you really think Owen now is better than Finkel or you in 1999? And Kai's response was yes, by far, which I thought was a really interesting take on the whole thing. Wow. Another comment that sprung up from this was when Johnny Magic said, nobody looks at Pele and says that he's crap compared to today's soccer stars. Like, nobody does that. And then someone else responded to him with, actually, yes, they do, but they're also wrong. So, which is it is a thing that pops up every once in a while, as people, compare stars of, football or basketball or any sport from the 70s or 80s and compare them to today and say, well, George Mikan wouldn't succeed in today's NBA. And it's like, well, okay, it's because he was in 1948 or whatever.
Sure.
Patrick Sullivan had a quote along the line that said, the Pro Tours are harder now. It's easier to be good by today's standards at Magic than it was in 1997. It's a very complex topic. Magic was super different back in the day. There was less focus on creatures, more focus on spells. It was harder to play optimally, a lot of people are saying. It's a really complex topic, and I thought it was a really interesting conversation that develops. So for those of you that are on Twitter, you should go take a look at this tweet and all the commentary that followed.
Wow. So, Aaron, do you have any opinions on this one? It feels like you're not in this one.
Owen's friends with Reed, so
Correct.
Whatever he says is fine.
Okay.
Got it. All right. Fan-freaking-tastic. It is, and somebody mentioned sort of in the stream that, it is somewhat almost disrespectful to kind of say, like, well, they weren't actually good. They were good, but they weren't, like, good.
I feel like it's dangerously close to venturing into, like, nice top deck territory. You know what I'm saying? Or, like,
they got more lucky than there was skill
right,
back then.
You didn't get flooded, or you just had a lucky top deck. Or...
It's not just Magic, though. That's every sport. I watch replays of the World Series of Poker from, like, 2005 and just be like, man, the best players in the world were garbage. If I was back then,
I thought you were going to say, man, where is my life? Like
that too. But, but hey, it's like, comparing eras just doesn't work in every major sport, and it's unfortunate that the human brain can't make that connection super easily. So we do have to have these kinds of conversations. But I thought that this conversation was a really good exploration of those theories.
Here's a way that I'd put it. We live in a world of NASCAR, and those cars are really fast and really cool, and they have all these technological advancements, and that's great. Now, there used to be slower cars with less advancements and fewer tools and, less bells and whistles, and that doesn't mean those drivers were bad or those drivers didn't have talent or the same talent that the drivers have now. It's that the vehicles were a little different, and the modes of operation weren't quite as refined. So I think that's where I take from this, which is there were amazing pilots, but maybe the airplanes weren't so hot back then.
Right.
Yeah, kind of the way you're looking at it. So let's keep on moving here. We're going to go infinite. This is something we talked about a couple weeks ago, but we just didn't have time for it. Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing here?
Yeah. So Cube April, who we all love, she has become a phenomenon recently. She recently appeared in an In Response video. It's a series that the professor does with Josh Lee Kwai. I believe Josh was sick, so he was unable to take part in it. And so he called in April to be his sparring partner. And April killed it. And April's known for sort of creating these fun little brackets. And the bracket that she created recently is cards you would not show to grandma. And we're talking like the idealistic form of a grandma. So we're assuming that she's, innocent, not racist, knitting, things that card art you would not necessarily want your grandma to see. And so she made this bracket. And so we had a lot of fun.
Your grandma never had sex. That's a thing that we're working under the impression of here.
Oh, God, no, never.
You just went for it, didn't you? But yeah, so I thought it might be fun. We had a lot of fun tackling her last bracket. And so I thought it might be fun to tackle this current bracket of beautiful and family-friendly artwork.
Yeah, this is going to be real fun. It's going to be a little bit better for those who are watching the stream, whether it's on
so visual,
recording.
Yeah.
Right, but I'll do my best for those who are listening on the podcast, of which there are many. So
you can also follow along using Gatherer or Magic cards.
Yeah, Gatherer is fine.
Yeah, for real, you should try to follow along because the fun is really seeing where these cards went. First up, we have Pulling Teeth versus Resurrection. So, and because I know you get such a kick out of this, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about both of these arts? Now, one, Pulling Teeth, I think is just clear, gross, disturbing, painful.
Yeah.
Resurrection.
is more suggestive.
Suggestive is a word.
So you have sort of the, on the one hand, you have sort of the more violent card, which is pulling teeth, which I think a lot of us have very visceral reactions to. Having any sort of dental work done is just plain not fun, and this really zooms in on that. But then you have something that's kind of lascivious in Resurrection, and you basically have this woman who's essentially throwing herself at what appears to be a cleric or a priest as they are conducting a ritual, presumably a resurrection ritual, and that's sort of, saucy and sort of blasphemous. And so, which of these two cards would you not feel comfortable putting in front of your Mima?
I'm voting for pulling teeth, personally. It's a little bit more raw, disturbing than, I think, Resurrection, which you kind of have to look for the problem.
Right. I mean, Resurrection is a little upsetting when you look at it closely, but pulling teeth is upsetting from across the room. I definitely wouldn't want to show the... Grandma, I'm going to a Magic tournament this weekend. What's a Magic tournament? Oh, here's an example Magic card. And I show her pulling teeth. I'd be okay with showing Resurrection because she isn't going to immediately think that the cleric in the picture is receiving a hand job. But
wow, you just went there, didn't you, buddy? Just
look, man. This is what. Look, are we going to talk about these cards?
Oh, we're talking about them. We're doing this.
But
we're here.
Yeah, I think that pulling the gross teeth with ropes tied around them.
Yeah.
Because this is Lorwyn Giant World. So it's like goblins with literal lassos pulling on teeth.
No.
All right, so is pulling teeth your vote there?
Yeah,
mine. Yeah.
Yours as well. Okay, so let's go on to number 2, which is Corpsejack Menace. Which Ruben, how would you describe this?
That would be Vagina Face.
Okay, that's great. And Reversal of Fortune, also known as boobs, boobs, boobs. Hashtag boobs. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but maybe the same principle is occurring. Maybe the question is, hey, Grandma, and for me, it'd be, hey, Mima, I'm going to a Magic tournament, and and she says, what's that? And I show her one of these cards. One of these cards is going to get the whoa reaction. The other is going to go oh, that's kind of creepy. I'm thinking that Reversal of Fortune, to me, kind of tips the scale in terms of it's a little bit more, there's more... It's just... I
would be uncomfortable with a Reversal of Fortune playmat.
Well,
I wouldn't be uncomfortable with a Corpsejack Menace playmat. Which, by the way, there is an official Wizards of the Coast Corpsejack Menace playmat.
Nice.
I think it also brings up another issue that we kind of saw at the first card is there's sort of the obvious take, and then there's the one that you kind of have to look at. I feel like Reversal of Fortune, you can't miss it. Boobs. But with Corpsejack, it's to me, it's not obvious. You really have to kind of
now,
squint,
once you
and then
see
you cock your right. But I feel like there's the one that kind of hits you in the face right away, and then there's the other one that you kind of have to read into a little bit. So if I'm going just for obvious, and probably the one I would rule for is obvious, I would choose Reversal of Fortune.
There's ones that hit you in the face when you
I was just going to say,
really quickly, and you're not really seeing where you're going.
When you reverse your fortune,
the fortune is reversed as they turn, and then
I have not had the pleasure of hitting.
Not had the pleasure. All right, we're going to keep moving. Speaking
That's the one we're picking, right? We're picking Reversal of Fortune?
I'm feeling that Reversal of Fortune has won, because all we need is 2 votes. Soon we got 2 votes, we can move on. All right, so our third option here is Earthbind, that has a fairy very much bound to the ground in many ropes. This is from Alpha.
No, this is from 50 Shades.
And also from 50 Shades. Or
Japanese rope bondage thing.
Yeah, or the very controversial Triumph of Ferocity from Avacyn Restored, which has Garrick with his hand around the throat of Liliana, and the other hand is reared back, as if he could be striking her at any moment.
Right.
And that was a pretty powerful image back then. It prompted an official Wizards response, apologizing for it, yada yada.
Yeah.
I feel like, seeing a woman and a man fight, even if the man is clearly, sort of dominant, if you were, the other one has not only sort of the innuendo-ish boob factor, if you will, it also has ropes and things, and that kind of goes into a whole realm of it. It makes me uncomfortable to think that I would have to...
And why does she got to be in doggy? What's going on here? There's so many other ways to portray that, where it's to choose... all of those things is just so intentional, where it's girl,
So this is the first difficult one, but the question is, which of these would I be less comfortable showing to my grandmother?
Earthbind.
And Earthbind is
It's
the pick. It has to be
the pick. It's just one of those like, wow, guys. The artwork, you know, I mean, it's
There's a number of things at play here. Obviously, Triumph of Ferocity has context, right?
Yes.
Like 5 seconds after this photo of Triumph of Ferocity was taken, Garrick is just splayed out dead on the ground, and Liliana's walking away. Right? This is the one moment where Garrick was like, "Oh, I've got the upper hand," and then Liliana just wrecks his face in the story. Now, obviously, you don't know that when you're looking at the Magic card art, but even if you didn't know that backstory, you know, my interests are unconventional is like just much worse of a thing to show to Grandma.
All right. So there you go. Earthbind it is. We're going to move on now here to our next couple of options. Now, I've put 3 cards on the screen. There's Uktabi Orangutan. This is from Mirage and 6th edition. There's Demonic Tutor from Alpha, which actually has the pentagram on the forehead. And I put in the special Uktabi Kong from Unhinged, where we kind of sort of have the result of what happens on Uktabi Orangutan. So, knowing that, you know, I'm from the South, and there's lots of religion and religious things in the world, and my grandma literally lives down the hill from a church that she's went to her entire life. You know, I know that Demonic Tutor personally would be the one that I can't just kind of run out there and be like, hey, the devil's going to help me in this game, and that's going to go over well.
Right, yeah. Aaron, you have a thought?
I'm pretty sure 2 monkeys bumping ugly is going to be...
2 monkeys.
Close.
Bumping uglies is just a fun phrase to say. Can we talk about that? Yeah, for me it's going to be Uktabi Orangutan.
It'd be bumping monkeys is what it is.
Wow.
They got that big round red butt on most of them monkeys, so you know.
That butt, you can't miss it.
Got that monkey butt.
Woo, monkey butt.
Yeah, this is a close one for me. Again, I think that they reprinted the art on Uktabi Orangutan.
They did.
Like multiple times, to the point where, so in the pre-show I was discussing, I forget what the theory is called, but basically there's a theory where your brain only focuses on what matters, and so it like siphons out everything else that doesn't matter. And the example video of this is always there's like a team playing basketball, and it says focus on the basketball. And then after the video ends, it says, "Did you see the man in the monkey suit breakdancing?" And then your brain goes, "What? I don't remember that at all." And then there's just a dude in a monkey suit doing this across the basketball court for 15 seconds. That's what's happening in Uktabi Orangutan. Like when you're the art director, you're not thinking to yourself, "Are there monkeys procreating in the background?" Like you're thinking, does the art make sense? Is the tree in the ground? Does the monkey have 2 eyes? It's like you're looking at the art from like from a is this a reasonable thing to put on does this convey what an orangutan is? And the answer is yeah. You're not thinking, is there sex happening in the background? Is there orgy being printed on Magic cards? Whereas I'm telling you, if you got to show a Magic card to Grandma, the card Demonic Tutor having literally a pentagram on it, on the demon's forehead, it's got to be Demonic Tutor. I think it's
okay.
All right, so Demonic Tutor is our winner between the two. But
Uktabi Orangutan is hilarious, and we will get some more awesome sex jokes later on in the bracket.
there's so many more.
We'll keep going.
Well, we got
Uktabi Orangutan is iconic.
From the World of Tempest, Clergy Onvec
versus
the original Unholy Strength. And this is, again, one of those things that visually, listen to the podcast, go pull it up on Gather, because you know what? I'm trying to family friendly it here. Let's just say that things are happening. There's a lot more innuendo here, I think, in Resurrection. Let's put it that way.
I mean, you have the clergy in the title. You have the flavor text of blows of unbelievers.
Yeah.
You have the
hammered out by the blows of unbelievers.
Right. I mean, you have like the kneeling.
His
the facial
hand is on his back. His hand is like,
like, God, was this the smartest thing we could have done this week? Was go over this
Yes,
stuff?
absolutely.
Yeah, I think this one wins by a mile.
Well, the problem is I think again,
close.
if I gave it to my grandma, the one with the pentagram's gonna be like, "What is happening? There's darkness. There's a guy in pain."
Dark-sided.
Versus like, this
and
is
Unholy Strength needed different art to be printed in China or some other countries because they literally wouldn't let you put this art in Magic. There was some controversy back.
It was about like dredge skeletons because you can't.
Oh, you couldn't put skeletons on cards. Right. Yeah, like relentless skeletons and stuff like that.
Right. But they did remove the pentagram from later printings of Unholy Strength.
Right. Yeah. This is a very overt pentagram. This is like, pentagram is the thing. Like, there's a dude who's like, but the pentagram is the part that's important here. That's where the strength is coming from. But come on, Blowjob and Vec has got to be the winner.
Good God, guys. All right, so Clergy on Vec is your all's vote.
Yeah.
Is that correct? All right.
It's got to move on.
All right. Well, we're going to continue to move on here with some weirdly gross options and something that I'm sure everybody's going to get a kick out of as you describe it here, Ruben. Macabre waltz, if you will. Macabre waltz.
It's gross.
Macabre waltz from Dissension. Super gross and ugly and nasty, and there's.
I actually love that art.
It's freaky. It's freaky.
I really like it.
I do too.
But Ruben, you got to tell us about Ukundu Cyclops from Mirage.
Akundu Cyclops.
Akundu, rather. Can you tell me about Akundu, please? What's
Certainly.
happening?
Well, Akundu Cyclops is a 4/4 is a 3/4 for 4 that isn't really following the new uniform regulations presented by Wizards of the Coast so much. Mm-hmm. He's got that like both being fat and having a six-pack thing going on that you see like professional wrestlers sometimes have. Mm-hmm. And he's also got that little bit of the soft serve dangling down from between his legs. Framed by the larger of the two moons in the background. He's pretty proud of that. Theoretically, that's a tail. But, I mean, I'm not a Cyclops scientist. I'm thinking that that's a little bit more the soft serve, you know what I'm talking about. So he's pretty proud.
Loop on the end.
He's pretty proud of that, you know.
And he should be.
Wow.
I'm all for that.
Chocolate vanilla swirl happening. I don't know, man. Look, flaunt it if you got it, and I guess he's got it.
And also the flavor text is pretty cool. I mean, big one eye, one big eye, one eye see, two eye die. I mean, you could go with that too. But I like Akundu Cyclops. I would probably choose this art just because I do think it's more. Again, I feel like it comes back to like violence or sex. Like, which one do you find more problematic?
Sure.
You know, I would say though, in this case, I would rule with Macabre Waltz. I love Macabre Waltz, but I feel like it's just so like it's unmistakable, like drenched in blood, couple dancing in blood. I feel like the Cyclops is more kind of whimsical. It's more, you know, if anything, I think a stranger would look at that and more laugh, like, oh, it's just a fun card where you really can't find anything funny about Macabre Waltz.
So I'm being told that it's supposed to be a loincloth, not a tail, because Cyclopses don't have tails, which I also don't buy.
Well, okay. I just want everyone to remember the term soft serve when it comes to
Absolutely, yeah.
I want you to remember that, okay? All right.
Hashtag soft serve.
Next up, we're going to get to Invoke Prejudice from Legends.
Great. Perfect.
Which you can pay with what kind of mana again, Ruben?
You can either pay with blue, or KKK.
Wow. Or Vampire's Bite, also known as More Boobs.
More boobs.
Hashtag More Boobs. And this is, Vampire's Bite in particular is just like, don't even worry about the head and the face, just boobs. We're just focusing on boobs right now and the gaping mouth with the fangs. And so here we kind of are with something that is arguably could be like, oh, that's a dude with an axe and he's got a funny looking head or whatever. Maybe not automatically associated with certain things versus boobs.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what the art direction that was given for Vampire's Bite was, because this doesn't really say Vampire's Bite to me. Right? The words Vampire's Bite don't really match what's happening in the art here with the boobs. Yeah, I got nothing else.
I don't know, Aaron. How do you feel about this sort of matchup?
I mean, Invoke Prejudice is just so. We've been using this word a lot tonight, but it's very visceral to me. You know, again, it's like, you know, I think the boobs are more tastefully done than I think we've talked about on this show or in this particular segment. The invoke thing is just so like, again, just blatant, where it's like there's just no mistaking that. And again, I think somebody older who was really, you know, around when that was really prevalent and a lot more in your face, I think is going to look at that and say, whoa. And so I would choose invoke prejudice. Like it's still, it even bothers me where it's like, I'm just,
so Ruben, you're going to have to be the deciding vote here because I'm going to go with Vampire's Bite. Which one do you feel is not appropriate for grandma?
Well, I mean, to be fair, most grandmas are racist, so.
But in this sense, it is
Hold on.
you.
But no, most of the time we've had a fight between violence, like physical violence occurring or aftermath, and sex. And this one has racist tones to it, which is weird. So I think I got to go with Invoke Prejudice.
All right, Invoke Prejudice it is. So we're going to go over here to what I believe is our last pairing, which is, let's bring it up here on the screen, Gwendolyn de Courcy from Legends, who is laid back with kind of the half butt thing going on as her clothes are bunched up there, and
I have been there, girl.
Armada Worm, which looks very much like Japanese films that make me uncomfortable.
Oh, right, I remember. Yeah.
So here we are in Uncomfortableville again. As we seem to find ourselves unable to really describe them without describing them. Oh my God! Which one of these? I think it's the half butt picture is going to make a little bit more impact. Again, we're here with the sex with almost the implied sex things that you have to know certain other bits of culture and society and movies and television in order to really understand it. Versus like, hey, here's kind of a half naked lady pulling this dude on her. And that's a thing that happened in 1994.
I actually would choose Armada Worm.
Yeah, I mean...
the silence.
It's just a penis. It just is a penis.
Yeah.
God.
It's got to be Armada Worm. I mean, Gwendolyn de Courcy is an interesting thing to discuss in this topic because it's active... like Black Widow happening, like bringing a dude back to her hotel room and then stealing all his stuff after she drugs him. That's just my fan fiction in my head. But Armada Worm's just a penis. So
I think what we're looking at is that when Corpse Jack Worm and or Corpse Jack Menace and Armada Worm get together, things, and they love each other very much. Things.
Hey, you ain't got to be in love to make that happen. Let's be honest. Just
wow. All right, so. I don't have slides obviously for what we were going to eventually choose, which for that one is Armada Worm, and I would have chose Gwen, but that's fine. Next up we have excuse me, Pulling Teeth versus Reversal of Fortune. You have the gross versus the boobs.
Pulling Teeth.
I still think Pulling Teeth would give a more visceral reaction.
Yeah, I don't want to show that to my grandma. That's yeah.
That's not good. All right, so we're going to move on from there. We're going to look at now Earthbind versus Demonic Tutor. This is a tough one.
That's a really tough one.
This is a really big tough one.
I'm going to go with Earthbind. I still think the BDSM 50 Shades going on is more upsetting.
I don't know. You guys have kind of swayed me. I'm going to go with Demonic Tutor.
Wow. Which one do I feel would, honestly, as crazy and as funky as Earthbind is, I think Demonic Tutor really is the winner here. It's the one that I think Grandma would be actively worried about me playing Magic, having seen that one versus
the name and the demon and the symbol. It's just like not the thing. I mean, I'm totally okay with it.
Just the number one
I haven't
thing.
even told my grandma I play Dredge. Like, I can't even imagine that conversation.
I play in the graveyards, and it's fun, and I love it, and I dig up things, and I return them.
What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to raise a family.
Next up, we have Clergy Onveg versus Macabre Waltz.
Oof.
Now, this is kind of the gross versus the implied. I think
Macabre Waltz.
I think Macabre Waltz is an easy pick on this one.
I was picking Blowjob Infect, but you guys win.
Of course you were. Invoke. He wanted to get that last one in. He just wanted to get it that last time. I know you, Ruben. I know what you're doing. Invoke Prejudice or Armada Worm?
Invoke Prejudice.
I have upsetting facts about Invoke Prejudice for you, which is the dude who actually made the art, Harold McNeil, who also did he did a cycle of Circle of Protection, The Abyss. He's actually a real life psychotic, racist, sexist person.
Yeah, if you go on his website, it is terrifying. Like there's
a lot of racist imagery, a lot of sexist imagery,
butts and snakes and skulls,
tentacle porn and things like that. It's a little upsetting, and this is early McNeil before he really hit his stride, I guess.
All right, so Invoke Prejudice it is.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. So now we're getting to almost our final rounds, our semifinal here. Pulling Teeth versus Demonic Tutor.
Oh.
That's a big one. Which do I want to show Grandma? I'm like, I don't like either of these. I am going to err on the side that I know would probably bother her the most, which is things can be icky, but things are not driven by the devil, and my soul is at stake, and so on and so forth. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
I mean, I didn't grow up in the South, so like I don't have the foosball is the devil, but I can definitely appreciate that, and that the iconic, the archetypal grandma is going to be more upset by Demonic Tutor.
Well, now we have Macabre Waltz versus Invoke Prejudice.
Invoke Prejudice for me. I have voted against Macabre Waltz this whole time.
I would choose Macabre Waltz at that point.
And I err on the side of Macabre Waltz. So
you guys are putting Macabre Waltz in the final?
We're putting Macabre Waltz versus Demonic Tutor as the final countdown, the final match.
Can I just say, it's so interesting that as a culture, I'm going to get on my soapbox for like a second. As a culture, I feel like all of the sexier ones would be the ones that most people would choose, because there's sort of that discussion of, you won't let Janet Jackson's nipple be on the Super Bowl, but you will let your kid watch, The Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's interesting that our finals are the violent cards, whereas I think anybody else would pick the sexier ones, the boobs, the soft serve, and just something I'm thinking of as we're going into this final.
Soft serve.
Right. Soft serve,
the soft serve.
Yeah.
So I will throw in my vote for Demonic Tutor. I will throw it in there. Anybody voting for Macabre Waltz? Anybody?
Aaron? I do like that colorless and black sorceries have just dominated this tournament, by the way.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think in this, this is tough. I'm going to choose Macabre Waltz in this case, just because it's so over the top. Like, it's not just someone covered in blood; they are drenched, and they're not alone, and there's someone with them, and they look happy, right? I mean, there's just a lot. Like, you're just being hit over the head.
There's a lot happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Demonic Tutor. Like the name, the
symbol,
demon,
the horns,
somehow the simplicity of the art, like the early style with the plain background, just adds to this, like, I'm just kind of not totally sure that every Demonic Tutor that I've cast in my life doesn't actually have some sort of demonic effect. Like, looking at the art now, closer than I have in years, I'm just like, maybe Grandma's right. Maybe I shouldn't be playing Demonic Tutor, right? So I'm going to vote for Demonic Tutor.
All right, so that is the end of that bracket. I have pasted a link to the Google spreadsheet so you guys can check out how we voted and how we did things. Demonic Tutor is our official winner for the cards.
And tell us what you would choose.
Yes, let us know in the comments for those who are watching after the show has ended. And otherwise, we're going to turn the corner over here to the finisher. So as I bring it up here, this week is the 241st anniversary of the ratification and adoption of the Declaration of Independence, a document signed by 56 traitors to the British Crown over the Stamp Act of 1765. Quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." No one had bothered to write those words down before, and today we celebrate that high treason with hot dogs and modified grenade launchers.
Perfect.
Now, holidays are a key part of Magic too, with cards like Footbottom Feast and Havoc Festival, and of course Elvish House Party, woo woo, to name a few. Yeah. But with few nation states in Magic-ology, the concept of an Independence Day is kind of foreign. So what would that actually be like, Ruben?
All right, I gotta get my Kennedy going. Hold on. Four-door Ford. Okay. And so, my fellow Ravnikins, ask not what your guild pact can do for you, but what you can do for the guild pact.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Guild pact.
Aaron?
Well, Olgratha is the greatest plane in the history of the multiverse, and this Independence Day, I am extremely proud to call it my homelands.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna grab a little something that I can use here as a prop. Because this one we gotta go deep, ladies and gentlemen. We gotta go deep.
Uh-oh.
Good evening. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around Amonkhet, and you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind against the armies of Bolus. Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. Perhaps it's fate that today is the release of Hour of Devastation, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom, not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist, and we should win this day. The Hour of Devastation will no longer be known as Amonkhet, as an Amonkhet holiday, but as the day when the plane declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night.
Yes!
We will not vanish without a fight.
Absolutely,
We're going to live
yes.
on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Nicely done, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
All we need is Randy Quaid to fly an airplane into Nicol Bolas.
And then the God Pharaohs in pieces all around us.
Hello, boys. I'm back.
That ends another episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all the magics. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ruben.
Thank you.
You guys
I
are
just
great.
got an image of Will Smith punching the locust god in the face and saying, "Welcome to Earth."
Welcome to
Just say
Amonkhet.
that. Welcome to Amonkhet.
As
Oh,
we-
giveaway, giveaway, winner.
Let
Giveaway.
me quickly show our giveaway. The people who won the new
What
and
was
snazzy
Yeah, there you go.
Chaos Draft Box right there. It's super sweet. So
Chaos
the
Draft.
winner that I will choose right now, so that we can get a winner, loading it up here now. Our friends at Gleam.io. Winners. We're going to draw a winner. Wait for it. Wait for it. Drawing. And Mr. Nacho 0823 from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Hello.
Nice.
So, hey, Nacho, I'm going to hit you
Ann
up
Arbor
via
in the
email,
house.
and I'm going to give you a free Chaos Draft Box. I hope there's some super sweet cards and packs in it. So, congratulations, Nacho. Thanks, Nacho. You're super awesome being Nacho-like.
That's right.
We're going to move to our final slide.
That's
All right,
Nacho
so-
Draft Box.
I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, my co-hosts Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Visit our website at magicmicspodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicscast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmics, on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com. Or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.